So guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make your defense more compact and impossible to break by using the right stick switching. The right stick switching is simply changing the cursor from one player to another by flicking the right stick towards the new player you're changing to. This is very effective and efficient when used defensively because it saves you a lot of time and aids precise and swift change of the player you're controlling, which is a huge boost because while defending every second count, and if you slip up for just a second, that could create an opening which your opponent will capitalize on to make you concede. So with the aid of some defensive scenario, I'll be explaining how to stop your opponent's attackers in their track by using the right stick switching. So before we get into that, if you want to purchase cheap FIFA 22 coin, make sure you check out what's gaming.net. It's a secure site where you can purchase FIFA coin at a good rate, and if you use my code FIFASAGE, you get 10% discount on your purchase. The link's in the description. So before we get into the actual part of defending with the right stick, the first thing you need to do is go to your controller settings and change the right stick switching option from player relative to ball relative. I'm recommending you using ball relative because it's a lot easier to switch between players when it's on ball relative, because then the AI is using the position of the ball as a reference point to pick the direction you're flicking to. While if you leave it in player relative, you have to be fully aware of who the cursor is on all the time, because if you're not, you most likely make mistake while changing cursor with the right stick. So the right stick switching option should be left in ball relative. So to perform the right stick switching, you have to flick the right analog stick directly towards the player you want to change the cursor to. For instance, if I wanted to change the cursor from this player to the other player, using the position of the ball as a reference point, I have to flick the analog stick to this direction. The precision with changing the cursor with the analog stick comes with a short time of practice, and changing the cursor with the right stick is actually very easy to do. But now the problem is how to use this trick to your advantage and defend properly. So in this defensive scenario, I have my cursor on this my defender, and by observing the flow of the game, I noticed my opponent switched direction and gave a pass to his midfielder over here. So at this point, the player I was controlling earlier can no longer help me much because he's not in a good position to recover that ball. So all I have to do here is switch the cursor with the right stick to my next player that is closer to him, so I can start pressing immediately he receives the ball. So I switched to the right stick and I was able to predict his movement and made a very easy tackle. So in this other scenario, I don't really know what happened there. I contained him properly and I made a very good initial tackle, but the ball went directly to his other player. There's no point crying over spilled milk. So what I did here is retain my defensive mindset, and the moment I observed the player my cursor was on at that moment could not cover that space in front to prevent him from scoring, I quickly identified a player in a better position that I could use to block that shot from front. And immediately switched the right stick to him, then positioned him in front of the player and closed him down. Then it was an easy block. I know some of you are probably asking, why not just use the L1 to change the cursor of the player? Basically does the same thing. It actually does the same thing, but using the right stick actually gives you full control of whom you're changing to. Take for instance here, if I had just randomly pressed the L1 button to change the cursor would have easily gone to this guy or this guy, which before I'll be able to respond with any of those two, the damage would have already been done. So using the right stick switching, you have full control to determine the player in the best position that can help you defensively. Because randomly pressing L1, once you've made that initial mistake of choosing the wrong person, before you're able to change the cursor to another person, in most cases it's already too late. So in a game where limiting the errors you make determine the rates of those you win while defending, you have to eliminate as much mistakes as possible. That's why any pro gamer will advise you to use the right stick switching while defending instead of using the L1. So in this other scenario, my opponent had the ball in the midfield and played it across to another of his player, and I started jogging towards him and marking the spaces. You notice I didn't fully commit because he had a runner here, so I could not risk my fullback being so high up in the pitch. So I withdrew with this other player to mark the runner, and then I quickly switched to my CDM to try and cut the passing lane, and it was as I guessed. He tried to pick that pass in the middle and I was able to intercept easily. And also in this scenario, my opponent is attacking me, was trying to create a chance deep in the wing, so he passed to his player, and then having both of my defenders in that position, he had a limited option, One, either trying to run into this space, which I can easily use this my fullback to intercept him, or he goes back and pass the ball to one of his player in his defensive half. So the only dangerous opportunity was this space in front. So I quickly switched with my right stick to my fullback and try and cover the space. But the moment I saw him stop running and trying to pick a pass, all I needed to do was to identify the best passing route there, which was the pass to this his player. And then I quickly switched back to my CDM and I was able to intercept that pass comfortably. To make interceptions like this frequently, you have to be able to read your opponent's game and make them play into your hand. As you can see, by making that run forward, I was able to discourage him from taking that route and go for something safer. So immediately he stopped. It was very easy to identify what he's going to do next, which is passing to the player closest to him. If you're able to improve on predicting what your opponent is going to do, you notice your defensive gameplay will increase massively. So to be a beast at using the right stick switching, you have to work on your reflex speed and your reaction time. Like your reflexes have to be really fast while changing from one player to the other. So your decision making skill has to be swift. And once you're able to do that, you'll be able to read the game and predict your opponent's movement more often. Overall, your defensive game will be a lot tighter. So guys, that concludes this tutorial on the right stick switching. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please leave a like, and also if you're new to the channel, kindly smash the subscribe button so you won't miss out on other tutorials like this uploaded to the channel. Thank you for watching, guys. Cheers.